Day 42 started from signing the house I slept in as looted. While leaving the building, I noticed a Zed that didn't woke up yet that I dealt with promptly. After that, I unloaded all of the loot on me in my car trunk and drove closer to the next property to loot. The engine noise attracted a group of Zeds, and hiding behind the closest fence, I defeated all of 4 of them without issues. Reaching the next area, I found a larger group on the other side. After killing 3 of them, I had to climb over the fence to easily kill the next 2. While waiting for the 3rd to fall for the trap, I was ambushed by another one. Luckily, the Zed that climbed over the fence pushed me away from the grab. At the last second, I regained my balance and, sprinting away, prevented the other 2 to get a hold of me. This allowed me to climb over the fence and add the offenders to the graveyard. At this point, there was 2 Zeds left, and I had to force the chase on one of them, so I could push him to the ground before the other one climbed over. This allowed me to safely deal with both of them, and after climbing over the fence, I killed also the newcomer. While waiting for more to come, I started looting. This allowed me to find a pair of scissors and a hard hat in perfect condition. When I finished looting, I noticed that the rest of the horde were ignoring me. Getting a few meters from the group forced one of them to react, and he followed me to his grave. This pulled 2 extra to my location. One of them refused to climb over the fence, so after pushing him away, I showed him how it is done, only to see him learning fast a trick. Moments later, I also shown the same lesson to the other one that joined his friend in death. There was only 2 left, and one of them decided to face me head-on, only to find his head smashed to pieces. The other one, scared that he was the last one standing, cowardly ignored me and ran away. Playing hide and seek with me was a fatal mistake. Finally, my surroundings seems to be cleared, and I went back to loot the next property on my list, starting from the trash bin to the right from the house. Inside, I found a magazine, an iron pipe, and even 2 garbage bags. The first bag had for me some sweets and some caffeine pills, while the second had a golf ball I don't need. After removing the trash from both, I took the bags before entering inside the building. The first thing I took was a television near the entrance. Moving to the kitchen, I found some salt and a jar of marinara from the first cupboard, followed by some peanut butter from the second. Then from the fridge, I obtained a cartoon of cow's milk. Near that fridge, there was a cardboard box, and within there was several great pieces of literature for me to loot. At this point, I took some water from the toilet and moved to the bedroom, where I found 3 empty jars in another box. Those jars are quite important to preserve food without using a fridge. Once I was done looting the house, I heard someone banging on its main entrance door. It was a zombie that wanted to paint the snow with his brain. Going back to my car, I found myself surrounded by 3 Zeds, but they were far from each other's, allowing me to deal with them one by one without any issues. While going to my car, another one appeared from behind, and I had to guide him to the fence in order to kill him as well. At this point, I had enough time to move my new loot inside the trunk before I had to fight the next group. Later, I dealt with the first between the last 2 properties I looted, followed by another I spotted in the backyard of the last house. On my way back to my car, I had to defeat 2 extra. A new group was incoming from the northwest. The fact that they walked at different speeds helped a lot in dealing with them individually. Later, I had to deal with another one that came from the northeast, and finally I was back in my vehicle to drive closer to the next properties to loot. But first I had to move the burned down car in the middle of the road. It was hard to pull because it has no wheels. For this reason, I stopped immediately after it was in a more open area. After detaching the burned car from my truck, I had to fight one Zed that heard the engine noise under stress. Then finally, I was able to move my car between the next 2 properties to loot. While doing so, I also noticed a new Zed that were following me, and I went back to deal with him. Going back to my car, I had to kill the owner of the left property. One of the neighbors came to check on his friend, only to find himself joining him in the grave. At this point, it was time to loot the southern house. The first loot was in the dining room storage, from where I found a paperback to read. After that, I checked the small basement of this house. From its tool cabinet, I obtained a metalworking punch, a lug wrench, a heavy chain, a box of screws, and a battery, followed by some vice grips, a long handle, a hacksaw, and a flashlight from the wall metal shelf. Back upstairs, I had to deal with a tenant that was relaxing in the living room. Once done, I checked the kitchen. This allowed me to find some yeast and a milk chocolate bar from the first cupboard, followed by a carving fork from the second and some dried chickpeas. The last one gives a lot of calories, but you cannot eat it directly. Instead, you need to cook it in a pot filled with water to make a soup or a stew. Back to looting, I found a bouillon cube in the third cupboard and a bottle opener in the fourth. From the last cupboard, with some loot, I obtained just some salt. At this point, I picked up the microwave, followed by the toaster and the coffee machine. After that, I was at my carry limit capacity, so I had to move back to my car. Going there, I had to kill just one Zed standing in my way, but then I was able to deposit everything I found so far in my car trunk. Later, while going back to the property I was looting before, I heard some zombie noises to the east. To play it safe, I entered the building and waited for them to use the window in the dining room. One by one, all three climbed inside, only to die soon after. One of them even had a fillet knife for me to loot. After that, I checked the living room, where in the bookshelf I found a VHS about woodcraft. Using the door nearby allowed me to access the garage of the property. From its wall metal shelf, I obtained a tire pump, plus some nuts and bolts. In the large metal shelves in the opposite corner, I found a propane bottle from the first, followed by a welding torch in the second and a rubber hose in the third. After that, I checked the nearby trash bin, where I found a peanut butter snack, while the last garage loot was in its center on the ground, from where I picked up a ratchet wrench, some pliers, and a funnel. At this point, I took a moment to sign this and the previous property as looted. Then, after unloading the new loot in my truck, I went to check the house on the other side of the road. The first loot was in the hallway drawer, from where I obtained an entertainment CD. From here, the next items to collect were to be found in the garage. Starting from the wall metal shelf that had 3 skill books, including the electrical level 2, that I need to finish dismantling the electronics I have in my base. While from the large metal shelf, I was able to get a steel rod, a propane bottle, an oxygen tank, some nuts and bolts, a dust mask, and even some bolt cutters. There was more loot in the second half of the shelf, where I found some safety goggles, 1 nail, a long stick, a door hinge, and a box of screws. Later, I was pleased to find on top of the washing machine a box of canned fruit. The garage was done and I was already over-encumbered. This is why I had to go back to my vehicle and unload everything in its trunk. Moments after I was done, 2 Zeds tried to ambush me, only to die soon after. It was only 3 PM and I was already tired. Ignoring that, I went back to loot the previous house, only to find its owner banging on the kitchen door. After dealing with him, I found a pickle and some mustard in the fridge, followed by a paring knife on the ground. It was time to loot the drawers, and from the first, I obtained some wire, some twine, and a power bar. The last one is an electrical device I can dismantle later. After that, I also found a seasoning salt from the second cupboard and a cola in the last one that had loot. This kitchen had even a storage room, and from its metal shelf I obtained a battery. Moving upstairs, I found a hoodie in perfect condition in a drawer, followed by an entertainment CD in the second and some long shorts in the third. The next loot was in the bathroom, from where I obtained just a bleach bottle. On the opposite side of the stairs hallway, I found a second bedroom. From one of its drawers, I obtained a revolver. The next item was on the bed, and it was a pair of jeans in perfect conditions. To finish, there was a short sleeve shirt in the second drawer. The last loot of this property was in the second bathroom, and it was just a hairdryer to dismantle and an adhesive bandage. Going back to my car, I had to fight one enemy that was chilling near my vehicle. At this point, it was too risky to keep going because of my tiredness. This is why I took the electrical volume 2 and went back in the just looted house. But after I reached the second floor, I had to run back downstairs to deal with a Zed that broke in through the living room window. At least he had a digital watch for me to loot. Later, I went upstairs and used the last hours of daylight to read Electrical Volume 1. Then at 7 p.m. and a half, I used my flashlight to keep reading. At midnight, I was left with only one battery and I was extremely tired. For this reason, it was time to sleep through the night.